Do you ever feel like your emotions are in control of you rather than you are in control of your emotions? Do you recognize, is there a certain feeling or emotion that you are feeling a lot of the time? And for whatever reason, you just can't seem to get rid of it or shake it. If I were to ask you, how do you feel the majority of the time? What would you say? Do you feel like you are mostly feeling good emotions, or would you describe them as bad and negative? I'm ketorstad. I am a women's life empowerment coach, and today I want to talk to you about emotions, those things that can sometimes cause us a lot of stress and worry, anxiety. We don't know why we're feeling a certain way, and we're not always aware of how to process emotions. It's not something that I remember being taught in school. I know maybe things are changing with more and more focus on mental health, but it's definitely not something that I feel a lot of people that I come into contact with are aware of how to properly process. Now, what are emotions? A lot of times we can label them as good or bad, as positive or negative. But what if we got rid of the label completely? What if instead of labeling how the emotions are, depending on how they make us feel as good or bad, what if we just saw them all as indicators? Indicators for what is going on under the surface. Indicators for what we are thinking, what we're focusing on, and what our thoughts are. And I truly believe that God has created us with the ability to feel, with the ability to have an emotional response to things, both so that we can enjoy life, but also so that we can recognize how we can get into a healthy place if we're not in a healthy place. I wonder how you feel about how well you can regulate your emotions. Do you feel like you tend to over-regulate? Over-regulating where you avoid, you ignore things, you escape, you try to numb all the emotions that are going on. You're trying to over-regulate and not let them flow, not let them be there. Or do you feel like you under-regulate, and that's where your emotions get to lead, that you get carried away in your emotions? Maybe you explode or you lash out, or maybe you wear your heart on your sleeve. Okay, both of those, whether we over-regulate or under-regulate, neither of that is a healthy thing to properly process and allow our emotions to have their rightful place. And if we have undealt with emotions, if we don't know how to, and we're not able to deal with our emotions, it comes out anyway. It just comes out in maybe different ways. We might recognize a physical reaction in our body. We might get sick. We might get burnt out from stress. We might have other symptoms that show up in our body. Maybe it shows up in our behavior, how we're acting, and our mood. Maybe it shows up in our mental state, in the toxicity of our thoughts. Or maybe it shows up in other secondary emotions that aren't actually the root emotion, but they're other ones that are coming out as a result. Emotions affect not only us, but when we have these emotions that we're not dealing with, it affects all of those around us as well. So it's really, really important that we learn how to process our emotions. So today I wanted to share with you a couple of steps for how you can properly, healthily deal with and process your emotions. So the first step is to allow your emotions. Allow them to run their course. Now, this does not mean we get carried away and we sit in and we soak in the toxicity and the negativity and the emotion and we let it carry us away. It means that we allow it to be there. We stop trying to control it and we create a safe and healthy place for it to process and to understand, what is this indicator telling me? What is this emotion telling me? And one way to do that, it's really hard in the heat of the moment to properly do that, because what happens when we are in a heightened emotional state, the part in our brain that thinks rationally, it gets disconnected. It's not able to function as it should. So we're not able to rationally look at things and with cognitive ability process and respond to things well. We respond out of that fight or flight emotional response. So what a really good technique that I've come across and learned is a breathing exercise and a 10-second pause exercise. So we can do that together now. It's where we breathe in, and you can close your eyes. Sometimes that helps you to as well. Breathe in for the count of 3 as you're thinking the words think and feel. And then you breathe out saying choose. So you breathe in, thinking, think, feel, and you breathe out saying choose. Because that's what we do with our minds. We think, feel, and we choose. And just taking 10 seconds to do that, it does this amazing thing in our brain where it calms us down and helps us to regulate, helps us to step out of that emotional heightened response and to calm down. And this is especially important if you are finding yourself in the heat of the moment, wanting to react and respond. I want to remind you, you are in charge of your reactions. You are the boss. Don't let this urgency, demanding feeling cause you to react in a way that you're only going to regret later. Because what does regret bring? That brings more emotion. The feeling of regret brings shame, brings guilt, brings disappointment. Okay, so that's never a good place. So that's a really important key is don't act or respond, especially if it feels urgent or demanding. But use this breathing exercise to calm yourself down, even if it's just for 10 seconds. Walk away. I can see this a lot in my own life with 2 small children. I'm a lot home with a lot of the time. And kids don't always do what you want them to do as they're becoming toddlers and becoming more and more independent. They do things that drive you crazy sometimes. And I catch myself getting really fired up and heated because they just don't listen, or they've done something again after me telling them not to do it. And I can see that I've been in this place where I've allowed this reaction to happen rather than taking that step back, taking that time to breathe and calm down and responding in a way where I feel more in control. So that's one thing you can do, is to think about, what does it look like for me to safely express my emotion or safely let my emotion run its course? In that example where I'm frustrated with my kid, it's coming from these thoughts of, I can't believe he's doing that again. Why is he doing that? Why doesn't he listen? Okay. Thinking like that is only going to cause that frustration and anger to bubble up more and more. So I need to remove myself from the situation. I need to calm down and find a safe way. Sometimes it means finding a pillow and screaming into the pillow, or getting out and getting some fresh air. So finding what is a healthy and safe way for you to let that emotion out as you calm down and take a breath. And then later, step 2 is to actually spend that conscious, focused time, intentional time where you get self-aware and you process that emotion. Now, some emotions, if we get past that heat of the moment situation, we think, I don't need to deal with that anymore. But it's actually really important to come back to it, address it again. And especially if it's something that you recognize that it's one of those emotions that you feel a lot of the time, from day to day, week to week, you're sitting with the same sort of emotions again and again. And rather than processing them, you just try and get on with life. And so this next step is really important. So what you can do practically is to really close your eyes and calm down. Take some deep breaths, like that 10-second pause breath that I mentioned before. Breathing in for 3 seconds, think, feel. Breathing out for 7 seconds, choose. A long breathing out. So just taking some time to calm yourself down and become aware. Tune in to what is it that I'm thinking? What is it that I'm feeling? Tune in to those warning signs, if you will, those indicators that are going on under the surface. And it may even require you to put your hand on your body. You know, our feelings are a energy that run through our body. And so we feel them in different parts. If we're feeling stressed, maybe you feel it up around your neck and shoulders. If you're feeling anxious, maybe you feel it in your stomach or in your chest. If you're feeling disappointed, maybe you feel it in your heart. Okay, so I want you to think, maybe even do that now. Take some time. You can pause this even to do it, but take some deep breaths and take some time to become aware of, how am I feeling right now? And where in my body am I feeling that? Even if it's a good emotion, what you see is a good emotion, even if it's something that, no, I'm in a really good place, even do that now to experience and recognize, well, how do I feel this emotion that I'm feeling? I'm feeling hopeful, I'm feeling peace, I'm feeling excited, I'm feeling good. Okay, where am I feeling that in my body? And then acknowledge it, see it, feel it, allow it to be there. And you can even say, if it's one that maybe you're uncomfortable with, just remind yourself, I am safe. I am safe. I can feel this emotion. I am safe. And then I want you to name it. I'm feeling, and then say what it is out loud. There is great strength and power in actually cognitively naming and recognizing, become aware of how we're feeling. What is that emotion? And I'm going to drop in the description below a link to a emotions wheel that I've come across. I didn't create it myself, but I found it as a helpful tool to help put words to those feelings. Sometimes we just feel bad, but there's always more than just bad. What sort of bad? Why do you feel bad? What is it about that? Or we feel sad, okay, but what type of sadness is it? Is sadness really the thing? Sometimes there's several emotions going on, and that's okay. That's probably because there's things under the surface that haven't been dealt with. So have a look, name it, sit with it, feel it, and recognize that you're safe in that place. And then step number 3. So the first one is to let your emotions run through. Allow them to be there in a safe place. Step 2 is to process them in a time where you're calm and you're conscious. You can get self-aware of what you're actually feeling, put words to it, recognize where you're feeling it in your body. And number 3 is to get curious. Why am I feeling this way? Where is this coming from? Why have I been triggered? Oftentimes we might feel, I can think of an example where in a relationship with my husband, we don't always get along. We have disagreements. And a lot of times I recognize that my response is I get really defensive, and then I get angry and I want to lash out because I'm hurt. And what I haven't dealt with is that there's things underneath the surface. A normal, or not a normal, but another person might not react in that way. And it's probably because I have some undealt with emotions and issues there that I need to deal with, of why do I keep responding and reacting? Why am I triggered by this? I don't see, even though in the moment I can see him as the problem, I know that my reactions, my emotional response, it's not because of anyone else. It's because of me. It's because of my thoughts, because of things that I haven't processed. So take the time to ask yourself those questions. Why am I feeling that way? And then ask yourself again, why? Why am I feeling that way? Why am I feeling that way? Where is that coming from? What other responses do I see in my life as I'm feeling this way? Are there behavioral things that are going on? What are the thoughts that I'm thinking that are causing me to feel this way? Can I think of the perspective that I have of the reason why I'm looking at it like this? And can I see any root of why or where this is coming from? Is it, if it's not a new thing, but it's something that you recognize it's a bit of a habit or a bit of a cycle, where has it started? Where has it come from? Now, of course, you're not going to get all of the answers to this in one setting. You're not going to find it all and solve it all in one moment or one day, and that's okay. but allowing yourself, giving yourself that intentional focused time to process. It might be challenging to begin with, but every day as you chip away at it little by little and you get aware, you're actually weakening those toxic thoughts where those toxic emotions are connected to. And if you ever follow Dr. Caroline Leaf, I'm a student of her. I love what she teaches and the way she explains the way the brain and the mind works. And she talks about our thoughts being physical things in the brain like a tree. And the tree that represents the branches, which are our responses, our emotional, our behavior responses. And the trunk, that is our perspective. And the roots that are the origin and the root of where this thought originated from. And we can have all these different thoughts and ideas connected to that one main thought. And sometimes it can be challenging to discover, okay, but what is that? What is the original thought? What is this main thought that I need to work on? Because like I said, we can have all these secondary things going on. We can feel discouraged. We can feel disappointed. I know in my life recently, I've just been looking at the way I approach my time and my planning and my prioritizing of things. And I recognize that I was getting discouraged about my ability to stay focused and not get distracted. And I decided to spend some time coaching myself, digging into it, looking at why am I feeling this way? And as I got spending time getting more and more aware and that intentional focus awareness time, I recognized that the root of this, it wasn't that I'm just distracted. It wasn't that I'm not good at prioritizing, but it actually stems from a root of perfectionism and my desire to be perfect and not make mistakes. And it's been, only a couple of days of me spending this intentional time getting aware of that I've uncovered that. And I'm slowly working to dismantle that toxic thought and to make changes. And a lot of times when we're stuck in these emotional cycles, or we're triggered and those same emotions come up time and time again, we feel stuck and we feel powerless and we feel hopeless, thinking I've always been like this, I'm always going to be like this, it's too hard to change. But even just thinking that is what causes us to get stuck. And you don't have to feel stuck. You don't have to be in that place. So if this has been helpful for you, if you are recognizing that, yeah, this is something I'm going to do more often, I'm going to spend some intentional time. If you have any questions about that process, please comment below. I'd love to engage with you and answer any questions that you have. If you're recognizing that this is something that you would like to dive deeper with, but you get a little bit stuck on your own or a little bit unsure, or you're a bit afraid that you're going to get caught up in the emotion and not actually know how to process it without getting carried away, then reach out. I would love to offer you a free coaching curiosity call where we can get curious about what's going on in your life. What are those things that are under the surface that are keeping you being controlled by your emotions rather than you feeling in control of them? Because you don't have to live like that. Anyway, I hope this has blessed you. If this has been something that's encouraging to you and you have someone in your mind that you want to share it with, I would love it and appreciate it if you could share it with others. And please like and subscribe so that you can be notified of any additional videos that I have coming out. My goal, my aim is to put one out every week with different tips and tricks and advice for how you can live your life the way God intended it to. Anyway, be blessed, and I will talk to you again soon.